Welcome to the Oxford Clay Pottery Podcast. I'm Catherine Tomlinson and I started an eco conscious pottery company called Oxford Clay. Now, Oxford Clay, I don't just make pottery, I also make books and courses for other potters who want to be more environmentally friendly in their pottery making. And that's what this podcast is all about. And I can't wait to get started. Let's go. Hello, welcome back to the Oxford Clay Pottery Podcast. I'm your host, Catherine Tomlinson. And this is exciting because today is the first episode of the 10-part series about how to make a raw glazed mug in pottery. So, we're going to be wheel throwing this mug. So, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about like preparing to make your mug on the wheel. So, all the things you need to sort of think about in terms of like what clay to use. We're talking about like wedging or kneading the clay and all the equipment that you need, not very much, to make your pot on the potter's wheel. So, yeah, let's get on with the episode. And thank you so much for joining me for this series. Hello, welcome back to the Oxford Clay Pottery Podcast. I'm your host, Catherine Tomlinson. And in today's episode, we're going to do a series of episodes on how to make a pot on the potter's wheel. And this is maybe if you have like, maybe never made a pot before and you just wanted to like hear like how it goes, like what the kind of the steps, or maybe you're really experienced potter on the potter's wheel and you just want to see like how somebody else does it. I thought it would be kind of like interesting either way. So yeah, see how someone does it. So basically, this is going to be like a video. So if you wanted to watch on YouTube, you can watch the full video about how I make this pot. But also, it's a podcast episode as well. So I'm gonna like talk through like everything I'm doing, and we'll see how it goes. Like, we'll see how it works. Like something that's so kind of visual as making a pot. We'll see how it goes. Actually, just like talking it through. Yeah. Okay. So let's let's get started. So I'm basically going to make a mug because I need a new mug for my tea and I need it to be like quite big. Sometimes I have a two tea bag tea, and yeah, well, I need a big mug of tea in the morning. So I thought let's make a mug, and I'll show you all the steps. So we're gonna do a handle for it. We're gonna turn the base of it. Gonna glaze it, gonna make it on the potter's wheel first. So yeah, you'll see all of those steps, and we'll talk you through all of those steps. Okay, so the first thing to say is that I have got something that I kind of want to copy, like a kind of an example piece, not in terms of the shape of it. I kind of want like a nice cylinder mug, and the mug that I've got that I'm going to copy, like the kind of I'm really copying the size of this mug. So kind of like the height of it, I really like, and also like the width of it, I really like. It's probably about maybe like 10 centimeters wide. It's probably, maybe even like 15 centimeters, maybe 12, 13 centimeters high, but I'm going to measure it properly in a second. Um, and yeah, just got this mug from the supermarket, and like I said, I'm going to change the shape of it slightly when I actually come to make it. But it's a really good thing to have like a sort of example of like what kind of thing you want to make in terms of like the size. Now, just to say, clay always shrinks, so I'm going to have to make whatever I'm making on the potter's wheel. I'm going to have to make it like bigger than the actual like finished mug that I've got that I've got the example of. So yeah, so I know that my clay shrinks by about 10%, so I'm going to be making a slightly bigger mug, 10% bigger mug. Okay, so let's measure this properly actually, and then I can tell you exactly how big it is. So okay, so this mug is it's really funny, isn't it? The way rulers don't like there's always a bit on the end that isn't the measure bit. And it's like you want to just put it down on the base, but there's about a half a centimeter, which is like a kind of an extra bit of plastic. Extra bit of plastic. So okay, so it's actually about 11 and a half centimeters tall. and yeah, it's about 10.5 centimeters wide. Okay, so if I make a mug that's about 12 centimeters wide and about, say, for example, maybe 13 centimeters high, that's probably going to be a really nice big mug for tea. So, okay, the next step is to pick my clay. So I actually only have one type of clay. So, but if you were say like at a pottery class and you're like, oh, I don't know, like what clay to make my pot out of, um, what I'd say is that it's a really good idea to have like quite a smooth clay. Like I have tried to make pots before out of like a grogged clay or a clay with sand in it, and it just really hurts your hands basically. So yeah, making a pot out of smooth clay is a great idea. So yeah, you can go for like an earthenware clay or a stoneware clay, depending on what kind of like temperature you want to fire it up to, or that you can fire it up to. My kiln goes up to stoneware temperatures, like high fired clay, which is kind of like cone 7, 8, 9. So that's the clay which I use. Is a stoneware clay that can withstand like being heated to those temperatures. And the really good thing about stoneware is that it's very strong. So if you want like a very sort of durable mug, it's also very it's non-porous because the clay is fully vitrified. That means you can use it for kind of like tableware, like dinnerware. So it's a really ideal clay for making mugs out of, because they that it's not going to leak. And yeah, we'll talk about like glazes a bit further down the line, but you can glaze it with a glaze that's kind of like sort of non-toxic glaze, just with really simple ingredients, then you kind of know it's pretty much like food safe. So yeah, we'll talk about that in the slightly different episode. But that's what I'm going to be using today. I'm going to be using stoneware clay. And the clay that I use is actually reclaimed from slip casting. So I basically slip cast things, and I make my own slip, and then I basically reclaim that clay, and then I make it into like dry it out, make it into a usable clay, and then I can make pottery on the potter's wheel with it. So that's the first thing to say. Pick your clay. Ideally, it's smooth. What I've noticed as well is like red clay can really like stain your hands, but that's fine. But if you didn't want that, you can go for like maybe a more like neutral colored clay. Um, and then it can kind of like wash wash off your hands a bit better. Like if you get it on you as well, it kind of washes off your clothes a bit better as well. But yeah, and I'm wearing just like clothes I don't mind getting clay on, and then I've got like a wipeable apron as well. Obviously, you don't have to use any of those things, but it's kind of like I just find like the cleanup operation is just a bit easier if it's kind of like a neutral colored clay, and also I'm kind of wearing some kind of protective ish clothing that I don't mind getting clay on. So the first step is that I'm just going to be taking off anything that I just don't want to get dirty. So, say for example, maybe you wear like a really nice your favorite ring or something, and I'm just going to take off my watch. And that's just so it doesn't get like clay on and stuff. And then I'm going to tie my hair up as well, and that's just so it's not like kind of going in the wheel, because I've got like a bit longer hair, so don't want it to like go in the wheel, and it's kind of like. I guess you don't want clay all in your hair and stuff, but well, maybe you do. But like, I kind of just want to keep it away from the wheel, keep it away from the pot. Okay, so hair tied up now, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wedge my clay really, really well. So this is probably one of the most important steps, and it's really easy to think like, oh, I don't need to do this, like, but it's really hard to make a pot on the wheel if your clay isn't properly wedged, and that's because it can be basically have like little like bits of harder clay, bits of softer clay. Easily it's got no air bubbles in. That's you just want your clay to be really, really well wedged, and it will just make the next parts of the process like much, much easier. Okay. So you get some clay out, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wedge a bit of clay which is like bigger than the actual pot that I want to make. Um, just seeing there's a random bit of plastic in the clay. Take that out. Don't want that. You do sometimes get random things in clay if you reclaim it. I could just found a hair in it as well. That's not what you want, because hairs could like actually cut your pot. You don't want that. So okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wedge it, and let me just move this so you can see it if you're watching on the video. Um, the method of wedging that I use, I think it's called an ox head, and it's what I learned at a pottery class. Basically, I you basically push down. So this is not ideal because I've got like a cable in the way. One second. Okay, there we go. That's better. So you basically push down, and then you're like smoothing the clay, like pushing the clay and then pulling it up, and it's kind of makes like a kind of ox head type um shape. So you're just doing that over and over again. You're just doing it over and over again until so probably do it even for maybe, so you want this to be really, really well wedged. So probably, I don't know, a good maybe a good even like 3 minutes. So just keep going with that. Occasionally you'll hear like an air bubble like popping out, and that's like, yay, that means the air is getting removed from the clay. That's really what you want. I just saw an air bubble just get popped then. So yeah, occasionally you can see air bubbles in the clay as you're as you're wedging. You'll see the air bubbles, and then like you can yeah, you'll see them like go as you carry on wedging the clay. So some people call this kneading as well. And there are like different ways of doing it, but this is the way I learned. Like so, it's like it's yeah, it does take I'm out a bit out of breath because it does take quite a long, quite a lot of like strength to do it. If you're doing it like, just heard another air bubble go then. Yay. It's really good. Okay. So been wedging the clay for about 3 minutes now, 4 minutes, and it's really nice. It's all really well mixed. It's all really well mixed together, which is fantastic. And then what I want to do is I want to um, get enough of the clay to make the pot with. And this is quite tricky to guess. So, when I was sort of starting out making pottery, I would basically just try and make something with, I would just pick a random amount of clay basically. And I would just try and make a pot with like as much clay as I could have, as I had the strength to use, and see like, how big a pot I can make and stuff. But, um, if you're kind of like really well practiced at this, you'll probably be like, um, you'll have a set amount. Like say you're trying to make the same size of bowl, you should use the same amount of clay every time. And what you'll find is like, oh, when you start making the pot, oh, actually, I didn't need as much. It's starting to go really big or something. Like, oh, I didn't actually need as much clay, or you have a lot of clay left at the bottom or something that you don't need to like kind of bring up. And you're like, oh, okay, well, I can use a bit less clay. And it's quite hard to guess. I'm just going to like just pull off a random bit. Going to get the clay into like a kind of ball kind of shape. Let's go for like, okay, I've just pulled off a random piece of clay. I could actually weigh it for you actually to tell you how much it is. 1 second. So just getting my scales. Yeah, and then you'll see like how much clay like I used for this project. Now I'm going to get the clay into like a ball shape. This is quite important to do because it just makes centering the clay like a lot easier. So just literally use your hands to get it into a ball. So this is okay. So it's like saying it's 811 grams, um, which is 1 pound, 12 ounces, point 0.6 ounces. Not my forte, but yeah, that's right. 1 pound, yeah, 1 pound and 12 ounces. So, okay, I think that's probably a little bit too much actually, but let's just carry on because we do want it to make a nice big cup. So yeah, feeding it now, I think it's ever so slightly too much, but never mind. Let's just carry on. Okay, so the next thing you need is you need something to keep your water in on the potter's wheel. So just to say, I'm using an electric potter's wheel, and it has a kind of little um, plastic kind of basin thing that all the kind of bits of clay like go in, all the kind of slurry goes in. And then also it has a little kind of shelf thing. So this is what I'm going to be using to um, like rest things on, like rest my water on. I can keep tools and stuff on there. So I've got a bowl I'm going to fill with water, and this is what I'm going to be using to actually make my pot. And then I've also got another sort of bucket of water, and this is what I can use to like wash my hands and stuff in. So it's really good to have like a nice kind of clean bucket of water. Then you've got your water for the wheel in a like a separate bowl. So I'm just going to take some of this. out. So I'm just filling up my bowl, my second bowl of water. It's like a smaller bowl of water. I don't need this mug that I'm going to be using to sort of, in terms of the size, don't really need that. Unless I was going to copy the shape, I don't really need it kind of like on my shelf. It's really just to kind of just as an example to show you. So, okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to clean my hands because it's really nice to kind of keep on cleaning down. That's why I find like when I'm making a pot, it's really nice to have like super clean hands because it just really helps you. Kind of really feel the clay and like you don't have all this kind of like clay slip kind of like getting in the way of you making a pot. So another thing to say is it's a really good idea to have like a tea towel sort of handy or some kind of cloth, and you can keep on sort of washing your hands and drying your hands, and it's just really nice so you can keep them all like really clean and stuff, and it just really helps you kind of not get overwhelmed with like clay slip everywhere. It's like just so nice to have a bucket of water that you can clean your clay in, your hands in, sorry, clean the clay off your hands. Thank you so much for joining me on that episode. And if you want to find out more about eco-friendly pottery, head over to the Oxford Clay website, which is www.oxfordclay.co.uk. Can't wait to see you there.